Okay, everybody. I see the queue for the coffee. Will probably take another 10 minutes. So I think we'll just get started in the interest of time. Thanks a lot to Dean. Dean, that's awesome. When we saw you as a lighty running around the fields, we knew you had promise. And we're happy that you've rewarded our faith that we had in you all those years ago. And it was very interesting, my boy. I think the insights and the way you dumbed it down for a lot of us was very helpful. I thought it was fascinating, so thank you. I'm going to go, and we wanted to change that up quite a lot and move on to one of the few, for St. Benedict's, one of the few things that we don't see. We're not the cases of the world where you get guys playing cricket for the national team. We get very few Springbok type athletes. It's very rare. The number of people who've gone and represented South Africa in any sport from St. Benedict's is very rare. Every few years somebody comes along and that individual surprises you. So well, a lot of us know Ramon when he was a lighty. He used to look up to us. And, but Ramon was in class with a lot of the guys over here, and we were all sort of friends at school, and we used to see each other. But Ramon was always that guy that I always find it, and I'll get into some of the questions around this, but I always find it interesting that Ramon and his friends group, all of them were skateboarders, or were into, I don't know, pre-grunge era. And so how Ramon came and found rowing when rowing wasn't in the sport at St. Benedict's is always an anomaly. And I think Ramon's one of those characters that was going to find something that he could master and crush. And I think he's created a legacy, which I'll try to explain, and I won't do it justice, but just to give you an idea. So Ramon obviously rowed for the South African team. That in itself doesn't do justice as to how hard it is to get into the South African team. You go up levels, and every level there's a cut. Next level, there's a cut. And it's only tenacity, hard work, and you've got to have a special engine that God gave you to get there. So it's quite a remarkable thing. And so in rowing, you've got world championships that they have every year. To get into world championships, they obviously work in the 4-year Olympic cycles. And so the athletes will train up for world champs. So he's got a number of medals there. He's got a number of bronze medals. And I've got so many dates here, it'll do Ramon a disservice just to go through every single year from 2001 to 2010. Every time we got a bronze medal, or every time he got a silver medal, every time he got a gold medal. But I think the things that he's known for, and we were joking about it earlier, is that Ramon's swan song maybe, like one of his biggest achievements was in 2004 at the Athens Olympics, when he got a bronze medal in the men's pair. So there's 2 guys rowing, which to get into the finals is insane. It's the best of every single country, and he made it to the finals. You've then got to go and try and get a medal, and he ended up getting a bronze, which is incredible. And then he made the finals, obviously, as a youngster in the Sydney Olympics, and then 2008 in the Beijing Olympics. Now, what's important to note is Ramon isn't rowing by himself, so he's not a sculler. He's rowing with a partner, and the partner, he's one of the few guys that has rowed with different partners, but it's always Ramon in the boat. And that tells you a lot about his character, because it's not 2 guys that row for 15 years, 20 years. It's Ramon, and he finds different individuals who are strong enough, and he pairs up with them, and he takes it to the next level, which is very difficult, because it's a ballet of balance between the person who strokes the boat and the person who's at the bow of the boat. And it's a very delicate thing that it is. So it tells you a lot about it. Have I said it correctly? More or less. Okay, so I'm going to get stuck in straight away to Q&A with Ramon. And so I'm not sure if many of you know, but I want to ask you, Ramon. So last week at Roodepoort Dam, it was the World Rowing Masters Regatta. And it was the first time ever that there's been a World Masters Regatta in Africa. And South Africa won the rights to host the World Masters Regatta 5 years ago when they put the bid in. And so last week there was a World Rowing Masters Regatta. You took part. Could you just tell us how important that is for South African rowing and your involvement?
Hi guys, yeah, so it was a great weekend. I think showing the world that we can host the regatta opened their eyes to having future regattas here. So one of the things in rowing that we struggle with, we've got a lot of guys at school level that then gets significantly less at university and then gets less at masters. And I think that regatta got a lot of guys back in the boat, including myself, helped me lose almost 30 kilograms. And got things going and opened World Rowing's eyes to what's possible in South Africa. As usual, we are obviously always pessimistic and we can't do this and we can't do that. And once again, we show that in niche ways, we can be world class. So that Masters Regatta was world class, and they're talking about a junior world championship in the future. So I think that's just part of our rowing story and how we grow. Just before we go through all the other questions, obviously I'd like to say thank you to Benedict for introducing me to the sport of rowing. I think that has been my passion, and it's probably the best little bit of education one can get is just exposing a kid to his passion. So I don't talk much and I don't say much, but one of the things I am grateful for that Benedict could expose me to rowing, and it's made my network to be what it is today through my rowing connections and through everyone that I've met through rowing. So that's been great for me.
And so Ramon, you put a lot of things in there, and I think a lot of people here didn't see you 2 years ago during COVID. So you've lost 30 kilos in how long? About a year. About a year. So I think it's quite important because the Olympic athlete, there's a bit of a trajectory, because to go to the top, you're working so hard that you're eating 3 times as much as the average human. And so by the time you come off the Olympic cycle, your fitness drops, but your eating habits tends to stay at eating 3 times what everybody else eats. And it's the nature of the body that's trying to, it goes into survival mode. And could you tell us what you did, how you came right during that time?
Yeah, so that's true. You eat out of a lot when you train. I rowed for 18 years. I think it's a combination of post-career depression, running the work environment, and just eating probably 6 times more than you should. So that's a process that most top athletes have to go through, is to plan how they retire. I didn't do a very good job of planning my retirement. And carried on eating and to deal with the post-retirement depression, which actually lasts a good couple of years, to be honest. So that's one thing that we try and rowing to sort out, that we plan retirement better for the athletes. And we come up with a plan way in advance, and we try and manage their chemistry when they do start, which is something I didn't do very well.
Yeah, well, you were the first one, right? So they didn't know what should happen. At World Rowing Masters, so a lot of the Ravens are the Symbiotics Old Boys Rowing Club, and they row out of VLC. And so often we would see Ramon training with the guys and going through this evolution. And I think what's important is we novice see masters, so some of the rowers would see Ramon, and when Ramon moves a boat, it's like hearing a powerful explosion through the boat as the blade catches the water. and you go, whoa, and it scares the living crap out of you when you see it. And Ramon's working in a couple of boats, but one of the main ones is the 8. So there are obviously 8 rowers, and there's the one driver, who's a cox. But one of the biggest rivalries in South African Masters rowing is VLC, so Victoria Lake Club at Germiston, and the Old Eds. Old Eds have got a number of Olympians that row for them. So one of the big races that we saw last week was the 8s. And it's based on the sound that comes from these engines, but it's also the speed of the boats. It's just, it's quite difficult to comprehend how fast eight men move one boat with different blades. And so they ended up, could you tell us about the rivalry with Old Eds and how the races went?
So as I said, I think the rivalry came back because of this again. Most of the Masters guys had stopped rowing, so they managed to all get back into boats. And one of the things I enjoy in the whole process is building the guys up, technically getting better, managing to improve on a week-to-week basis, month-to-month. And we did manage to beat the guys in the 8 purely because I think we'd spent a lot more time trying to get the top speeds and articulate the feeling that you need to ride a boat really fast. So that's the part I enjoy, that's my passion, and I think that's what got me through all the Olympics and all the naysayers. When we started in the 90s, we knew hardly anything, so it took a good 7-8 years to try and develop the IP of what it takes to row internationally and at the level we did row. And then we managed to solidify that IP through the 2000s and up to 2020s, where we consistently as a federation won Olympic medals and world championship medals. So that resides with us. It's easily lost, but if you are passionate and you are able to retain that information, which we want to as a federation, I think we're going to box above our weight well into the future.
And as part of that, you speak about building and the growing, and I keep thinking about the longevity that you have. Athlete cycles, can be one Olympics ever, and then they bail. And it's taken them 20 years to get to that point. They can do one Olympics, and then they're out. You started as a youngster. I think there's 2 points that I want to raise. Is that I know Mr. Dobson was one of the guys that started to build rowing. When I matriculated in '89, rowing had been going for 1 year. I think it started in 1988. And we used to see you guys as the guys that can't make the soccer team. So then you got to go play rowing. But the longevity, so starting up at rowing, and I think you've told me once a story of Mr. Dobson when he got the spark in his eyes going, St. Benedict's isn't going to be a soccer school anymore. We thought it was a soccer school. It's not going to be a soccer school anymore. It's going to be something more than that, and we're going to punch above our weight. And I think it was at Buffalo that you had mentioned the story. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I think that was 1990, it must have been. Mr. Dobson came down with us to Buffalo for the first time. And as we all know, I think he was looking for a sport that he could market his school and box with a big glass. And that year we managed to be part-time in a wooden boat with these oars that were super flexible. And I think the penny dropped for him. I think, and I'm grateful that it did drop for him because he put a lot of effort and energy into rowing. And it's proven to be a great sport for the school. And it shows, I think, the rowing story that you can be this small underdog and work against all these top schools because you need 8 guys in a boat to really be focused and in the game. If one guy stops mentally, not even physically, if he just checks out mentally, you're not going to be able to compete. And that's quite easy to happen. It doesn't matter if you come from Sicilians or some of these big schools. If you're not into it, one guy's not there mentally, you've got a chance to win. And I think that was for me, I saw the change, I saw the money's starting to flow into rowing, and it's been a great story.
One of the, I think for perspective, to give everybody an idea, there's two different types of rows. There's the lightweight rower. So lightweight rower, I think, is under 72 kilos. So that's my weight. I just make a lightweight, more or less. Depends on before or after breakfast. And then there's the heavyweights. The heavyweights are 72 plus, but we are talking about guys that are 2 meters tall and that are weighing up to 90, 100 kilos, 100 kilos. Ramon goes in as one of the very few South African heavyweights, and he's a small international heavyweight, that's about right. So he's almost a small international heavyweight. So we've asked the question to say, you know, when you've left South Africa for the first time and you're rowing against all these other guys from Germany and Austria and Romania and all these monsters, and these monsters, they walk in packs. So it looks like buildings are walking through there. And I asked you the question, how did you know you could take these guys on? Like you saw all these monsters, and you told me the story just briefly of you were standing next to them and you realized, geez, they're just guys. They're the same as us. But that attitude is tricky. Tell us about that.
I think it was in the 90s, our mentality was, you respect these guys, the Africans can't do this, can't do that. I think because I was so passionate about rowing, I think that's the challenge I took up in my career, was to actually work out what we can do as a rowing nation, or myself, how far we could take this thing, and started to just chip away at it. Eventually you start to see the human aspects of all these guys, and it's a mentality. It can't be this mentality that what we can't do this, or we can't do that, and we would respect these guys. And I think once we changed that mentality, and you still respected them, but you saw the humanity in them, and you started to understand that there were technical aspects that you could do better than them, and it started to happen for us. And that took us the whole of the 90s, I think, up to 99. We then started to make breakthroughs, started to get to the top 8. Sydney Olympics, we made our first final. And from there, we managed to get sponsored by Holland Insurance, and a couple of corporates came on board. If you added up all my semi-finals to get through to those finals, it's 0.77 of a second. We got through the first one, got by 0.07. In Athens, we had to get through a court arbitration because the Canadians knocked into us. They came out of the lane and bumped us, so we actually had to go through an arbitration process and got our place in the final. So that's how close that was. We were reliant on a judge to tell us that we had a place in the final, and then in Beijing it was 0.7 of a second. So you can't really, and you do get the athletes who want to get paid and then they'll tell you they'll get you an Olympic medal. I think that's where it's similar to business. I think you've got to prove yourself before anyone gives you anything. And you can't really be result-based focused too much because you're probably going to not make it. You really got to be focused on the technicalities and passion-based because you can't really predict that on the day 0.07 of a second is going to go your way. I think you can only control that on the day you're going to execute to the best of your ability, and that happens to be 0.7 of a second ahead of the Canadians in Sydney. And in Beijing it was 0.07. So never really thought result-based. If you look at all my results, it's just a product of, I suppose, all my training and passion for the sport.
So Ramon, you still rowing now. We're in 2023. It's your 30-year school reunion. You're still rowing. I think what interests me is there's the mind that drives the passion, and there's the body, which has got to keep up. But you've rowed for 30 years, and you've probably rowed at the highest level that any South Africans been able to maintain for that period of time. How do you balance that? And a lot of people that I've met recently, 10, 15 years, and they can't handle it anymore. You kept going. How have you done that to like body, mind, passion?
Yes, I think in my career it was obviously easy. I did stop for a while and I lost the balance. And I think rowing's given me balance back because this obsession in the work environment, I work in the construction industry. So I refer the construction industry to fuck up management. So it's easy to obsess and know that you're going to lose money at any given time. So right now you could be losing money. But rowing allowed me to escape on the weekends, and you cannot row a boat and think about something else. And that's the great thing about rowing. You can go for a run and cycle, and you can still obsess about what you need to do in the work environment. But once you're in that boat, it absorbs you fully, and for that hour or whatever, you get the mental break that you need. And I think that's been the game changer for me and helped me. So I do think I'm going to row at least weekends till I can't anymore, because I think mentally it really helps.
And I'm going to ask you one last question before I open it up to the floor. And I think this is something that you had told us some time ago, and it was for the junior under 19 team that was going to Worlds. We just asked you about you, Ramon, which we're happy that you share with us. But the one nugget was price. When you go through to Worlds in the under 19s, attitude of how you go there and how you portray yourself there, you go there because you want to win. And going there with that attitude is the difference between, if you don't go there with that attitude, you're going with coal-fired ESCOM power. You see, but if you go there with an attitude that you're going to win this thing, it's nuclear power, that means you're going to drill the crap out of everyone. And I think that there was a lot of wisdom in that, because I think there's a lot more to that. And especially for the young kids, because it means quite a lot. Could you just elaborate?
Yeah, I think it was just the game going with a neutral to negative mindset, which we as South Africans like to do. You know, we often go in there highly conservative, maybe, could it be. And you'll go up against an American who's got the completely opposite attitude. He's like 100% belief in himself and what he can and can't do, and everyone's maybe the same as him, but probably not as good as him. And I think our kids, you know, in the 90s, we had to deal with that baggage where you literally got schooled to go there and come fourth or fifth or eighth, because that was really good. And I think we try to instill that in our kids, to the mentality of at least backing themselves and really going out there to see what's possible as opposed to just settle for what people tell you. And I think that's the energy systems that you deal with are too different, and that's where I spoke about coal-fired ESCOM versus nuclear power. You need the kid to go in there and get 100% out of himself, as opposed to already his mentality is limiting. So we still do that to ourselves in South Africa. I think sports is a niche environment that does show what's possible. And you see exceptional stuff. It's obviously less complicated and more linear in its approach. You know, it's just one athlete who wins the 400, but it is a demonstration of what's possible versus this constant negative, we're not so good, we've got to be careful kind of mindset. So, you know, they went in there, I think, got the best out of themselves, and hopefully in generations to come we change that a little.
Awesome. Could we give Ramon a round of applause? And I see we might have another 15 minutes. I could speak to Ramon all day because it's very interesting as to what he's been able to do over the years. But I think I'm going to open it up to the floor. If anybody's got any questions for Ramon. I did see Mr. Roth here earlier, but I think he may have ducked. Is he here? I think he had to leave.
Okay, so my question is, we've seen the Ravens Cup sort of explode in terms of numbers. When are you going to stop coaching the opposition and come and give us some
So I need to come coach you guys, but I'm on my way down to the Cape now at the end of the year, so I'm going to be trying to help. I think that's, again, one of my passions is to try and get the level up as high as possible. So you need to just tell me to come and I'll come. And I'll come and help you.
Just get a survey for the pen and we'll sign it in there. Anybody else? Nuno?
I think, how did you, like, throughout your own career, like, what was your sort of injury profile like? Did you encounter a lot of injuries? I know that some of the guys like AJ, they had a few tough times. Some of the horsemen also, I mean, from the sidelines when I was observing it as a youngster as well, looking up to you and the rest of the team. A lot of you had injuries. How did yours go throughout your time?
I was generally good, just one facet that was like a needle for most of my career, but isolated.
Okay.
So managed it for 8, 9, 10 years. Still a problem, still got one
On the bad side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I was lucky, I was fortunate. Most of, I was pretty robust from that point.
And sorry, just further to that, what are the nature of the injuries? I know it's like a lot of lower back injuries from maybe opening up a bit earlier in rookie, but general power through the body. What are the normal injuries and how do the guys deal with it?
Yeah, it's mostly back, I think, and I think we need to work with the kids to get them a lot stronger in their hamstrings, calves, back of legs, and core. I think guys are too strong in their quads, front of leg, not so strong in the stomach. So definitely back is something to watch out for.
Eddie, did you have a question?
Yeah. You've been in the sport, the industry for so long. Have you picked up any key factors of, like, you can identify a 14-year-old and you say he's an Olympian, or he's got the potential mentally, physically, or is there so many variables and factors that it's impossible to have a set, determinate, like, template?
I think you can get an idea, but definitely there are a hell of a lot of variables. And I think you'll start to really think from the ages of 18, 19, 20 in the rowing game. So definitely at school level, I wouldn't try and put that type of pressure on everyone, but by the time they're 18, 19, you'll know if they have what it takes.
Yeah.
South African rowing punch above its weight internationally, when there's a lot of constraints that we have to encounter and factor in. How do we still maintain a competitive edge to be competitive for the next 5, 10, 15 years?
Yeah, so our big problem is obviously we probably spend about 1/30th maybe was to run our national team. And that's not even comparing against the British guys. But we have, like I said earlier, banked quite a lot of IP, so we do understand what it takes. We've got a lot of things going for us in terms of altitude training and sea level training and great weather all year round. So as a training destination, we've got a hell of a lot of advantage. But our biggest challenge is, we need 12, 13 million rand a year to run our national team. We run 4 to 6 at the moment. And that probably runs one athlete in the UK. So those are always going to be our challenges, but rowing needs to also understand how to market itself better and to articulate its worth. I think we very much underestimate what we're worth and what we represent. I mean, we haven't yet got that across to corporates.